Got Truck and Investing here. We got a veteran on the line, Mechanic Fred, who's been in the industry for 15 years as a CDL driver, auto and diesel mechanic. How you doing?
Doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I wanted to give some of the people some insight on what they could look for when they go to auctions. And one of the auctions that I use is Ritchie Brothers, which has auctions all around the nation. And I'm going to be sharing with you guys on the screen. You can see right here. If you're not familiar with Ritchie Brothers, you can go to their website. You can sign up. I'm in somebody's account right now that's also a member, and you see he has a bidding limit of 25,000. There's an array of different trucks that's on here, from semi-auto trucks to anything you can name. And as you see, these are different upcoming auctions that's coming on. So they
Right.
go from anywhere in North America,
All right.
Canada, all the way to, and people from Mexico get to go ahead and bid. So as a diesel mechanic, there's a lot of things that I know that you see.
hmm
I mean, of course, we're dealing with used trucks. What are some of the key things that they need to make sure they pay attention to?
Well, the first order of biz is so you look at the framework, see if the truck has been roughly, handled, beat up, tear up, anything that's damaged. Front ends mainly. Look up underneath the wheel well and see if any of the suspension is bent, um, anything is loose, and that's on the front end basically. Tires, if you see the tires pretty much wearing pretty bad, then it has bad front ends. That's one of the first things to look at, and all your tires all the way around it. Secondly, brake count lines and hoses. The brake lines on them, make sure they're not cracked or separating or anything. Look at your lines to hook up for your trailers. Make sure that they are intact, doesn't have any leaks. The way that you can do that is when you put both of them together and you run your pressure to them. You come back out of your truck and take a listen to it to see if any air is leaking from it. That's another thing. If you got air lines busted, you'll never be able to hook up your trailer and be able to stop it. On some of the little box trucks, the main thing is the air lines. All of that, tires, and the inside of the cab. If you see wiring where they've put CVs, any added extra, check your fuses and make sure all your fuses are good. Check all your headlights, lights, indicating lights, blinkers, which basically is just like checking out a car on that note. Um, Look at all your headlights and everything and see if they're feasible, bright enough, so you'll be able to be driving safely. A couple of other things, what I've learned from some older gentlemen, they always say you can tell by the look of the truck. If somebody is rough on the truck or it looks rough, there's no need to even think about buying it. Look at something that's fairly decent, in good shape, and the if you end up getting a trailer, look in the back of that trailer on a box truck and see how badly it's been beat up, because you'll have to replace that wood that's inside of it for the support for your cargo. If not, some of it will be coming out. Um, um, Look and see if they have low locks inside the trucks too. Sometimes they leave those in. That's a good buy to have that, because those are very expensive. And look at the flooring of the truck. Make sure it's not weak, so that the trailer, the box truck trailer, is not, it can substantiate and hold the load with no buckles in the framework or anything, or especially when a forklift or anything goes inside of it and falls down into it. Make sure all of that flooring is decently and repaired. If it not, and it looks like it's fairly decent, that where you can spend a couple of dollars to get the plyboard and take it up and put another one into it, it might not be a bad buy for a little space. But if it's a real large space, don't bother with it. Um, Make sure your indicator lights on the back, mainly your brake lights, all of that is intact, because DOT will stop you for all of that. Um, Signal lights, make sure all of that is working. It's just basically like like you're going to go buy a vehicle or so. You inspect it. Your heating and air, if you have it, check that. And if it's not, ask them if they can really check it and tell you anything about it, or crank it up and have it running so you'll see what's going on.
So
Yeah.
going back to when you was talking about the box trucks in general, you're saying
hmm
that the inside of the box truck, what would be considered too much damage or unrepairable as
If
far as the
it's
wood?
if it's if it's spaceable, like 6 foot more and better of damage into it, don't buy it. The
Okay,
less
so
than
you're
less than
you're
six,
basing off the feet. So if it's any direction,
right? Because the plywood that you can purchase from any, Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that is 6 foot long. You can easily replace that yourself.
somebody has to be like technically inclined, or just it's not really a
Not
hard
really.
job.
I mean, basically, all it is screw. It's bolted down. It's all bolted down.
Got you.
You go up underneath the truck, unbolt them, and when you go get ready to put that, when you cut the piece, if you got a person that can measure real good with a tape measure and cut the plywood to the right spec, but you want that 3/4 inch plywood, that thick one. So when something heavy goes onto it, it wouldn't buckle. It's a thick one.
Got you. Got you. Got you.
And you can go up underneath the truck, unscrew the bolts, take them loose, and when you got a drill, you drill from the bottom up for the bolts to go back in, and that way you can drop the bolts back down into it and screw it back, tack it back down.
Right now, let's just talk about box trucks, and we'll go into semi trucks next.
hmm
What would you say would be the most costly item that they would buy if it needs to be repaired on a box truck?
Box truck, mainly the brake lines. That's the most important because those are high dollar items. And if the brakes are bad, I mean the lines are bad, the brakes are bad.
How would somebody be able to inspect this? Do they have to, if they didn't have a mechanic, they would try to take it to a mechanic shop or have a mechanic? Can a mechanic come in and look at the brake line and know that it's messed up, or do they have to bring it
I'm
to their
I'm
shop and bring
pretty
it up?
sure I'm pretty sure that they can, but you can also do it yourself because you can just look up underneath the truck. The lines run right up parallel up underneath the bottom of the trailer, running down on the beam, and you can see it going back into the back of the wheels.
Some of the things that could be considered wrong would be like corrosion, holes. What are some of the
Yeah,
things?
yeah, corrosion, holes, brakes. You see any leaks mainly? That's good. That's the good signs of brake lines messed up. The main thing.
When you first get into a truck and you start it up, what do you need to do in order to see if it has any leaks? Do you have to drive it, stop it, or does it automatically, as long as you keep it in idle, does the leaking start happening?
Well, you can either do it there. You can be stopped and pump the brakes. If they go ride down, they go. If the pedal goes down to the floorboard, that's when you know you got an air leak. You got a leak somewhere. But if it stays hard for the whole time of the duration of you pushing on the pedal, you'll know that you got good brakes.
Okay. And so, if that's number one, the engine being number two, something in the
Engine
engine.
will be no, engine will be the number two. Basically, when you crank it up, if you doesn't see any smoke coming from it, that's a pretty good running truck. But if you start seeing white smoke or constantly with a lot of black smoke is fine. But white smoke, that's when you got piston rings. That's bad. Where you have to do a lot of motor work to it, and it'll be burning a lot of oil.
Okay.
Um, that would be one that you'll want to stay away from.
So, how long do you have to run the truck in order to see the
It's
white or black smoke?
as soon as it idles, it'll start. It should start. You'll be able to see it.
Now, as far as the semi truck, what would be number one and number two things
Motor
that?
on
Okay.
on semis. Most of the new Max, the older Max and newer Max, they're the rough ones on motors because they're workhorses. Those are ones that'll blow a head gasket in a heartbeat, and but they're workhorses. They'll move.
Now, are
Um,
you talking about like? Because I know they have different engines. They have the Cummins, the
Cummins,
Detroit,
yeah.
the Pascar.
I
Um,
forgot what that one has in it now, but then The Cummins is the most strongest, and the only problem that I've seen with that, the air condition usually goes out on them. So you have to check those real tediously with that.
Okay.
But other than that, everything else is fine.
So you would say for semi trucks, focus on the engine. That would be the most costly item, the engine. Now, what would be number two?
Right. Yeah. And you look at the stickers and see if it's been inspected or if it has a ignitions inspection. If it does, then it should be okay. Most of them do have them.
So what would be number two?
Number two would be your brake lines and brakes.
Okay, so is this basically vice versa? You would say for box trucks versus
Box trucks.
semis.
Semis, yes.
I recently heard
The
this.
feasible year. The
What's the
feasible year
yeah,
to purchase.
to get a
Feasible
used
year to
truck?
purchase of anything right now, I would go 2012 on up
2012 I'm going
if
up.
you can find it. If you can find it in a decent price.
So 2012 going up to, of course, possibly not 2020, but maybe like a 2017, 2012,
17,
2017,
18, 17,
18,
18,
if you can
something
get
like
it.
that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're on the Ritchie Brothers website, and like I said, Ritchie Brothers is a great website. You can actually sign up. You need to have your DOT number, so you have to be a federal authorized trucking business in order to go ahead and get signed up. They do have where you can get involved with their credit program. If you have decent credit, maybe a 720 plus, um, you can possibly get as high as 50,000 in credit and not have to put anything down for the first 3 months. So if you're going to these auctions and you're doing everything online, you'll have the ability to, one, not use your funds, two, purchase and still bring a mechanic out to go ahead and look at it if you can't be on site. And as you see, there are several different locations, like just Canada. You'll have stuff overseas, like that's Spain. But of course, we focus on North America. And this is coming up on June 9th, which is today. They actually just had this. So let's look up another one. Let's say Las Vegas, June 11th. You can go into the Las Vegas and see this and see some of the items that they have. For example, it's a 2016 Peterbilt sleeper truck, 550,000 miles on it. Las Vegas. Something like this might go for on the auction as low as maybe 60,000, as high as 90,000, based on how much you're bidding on and everybody else. One of the things I want to say before we get into looking at one of these trucks with Mechanic Fred is the fact that if you do qualify for the credit, which you have, 50,000 credit, a line of credit that you can go purchase, you still would have to put a deposit down. It's kind of like a temporary hold. So whatever you plan on bidding, even if you have a $50,000 credit within Ritchie Brothers through their system, you still would have to go sign in and put a deposit down on your max bid at 25%. So if you want to do a max bid of 10,000, you have to put a hold on your card, debit or credit, of 2,500. All right, and then once you win the bid, they will automatically release that hold, and then you can go ahead and use the credit that you awarded. Now that's for people that have good credit. Maybe you have to find somebody else that has decent credit to be involved to go ahead and cover the purchase, even though they might not be involved with your trucking company. You might want to have them be responsible, maybe a third party that's in charge, responsible for loan. So if I go here, the good thing about Ritchie Brothers, we're on Las Vegas, June 11th. That's coming up, and you have all them type makes: Peterbilt, Freightliner, International, Kenworth, Volvo, Mack. We're online right now on the desktop version, but you would want to download the app and then sign in. You see it says lot 164. A lot of times they'll have 1,000 to 2,000 pieces that that you're going to bid for. So when you get inside, you'll be able to see pictures of the truck.
And looking at this truck, if you look at the engine compartment where you see all those lines going in for the brake booster and everything, all of those look like brand new to this. They really kept this truck up, even though it's got 923,000 miles on this thing. This darn thing here is a workhorse.
So
boy.
you're talking about what you see right here.
Yeah, it's still running, and it's all, you don't see any leaks. because I'm looking at it and highlighting it. I see they got tape over the wire harness. The fuse box
Hmm.
by the steering. That's something that you look into and see why they got that on it. They probably broke the latch or something on it. That's why they got it taped now. But this is an ideal truck if you're going to go look at something. This is an ideal truck to look at. So, and if you look at on the top of it, that's where the filter is for the top. You basically some of the work of changing some of the filters that you get out offline. I mean, from the department stores or either the manufacturer.
Hmm.
You can change some of the filters on this motor yourself. You wouldn't have to get them to do it. Some of the stuff you can do yourself on this one. That's why I love this truck. Um,
One of the things you
mhm.
could look at and you can see what type of truck it is, the details, the VIN number.
That
Um,
number,
you can easily, and this is the thing, if you go online and you say check um, VIN history,
right?
it should be
You
this
can see
website
all of
right.
that too.
This website right here is vehiclehistory.com.
Okay.
You can type this in, search
hmm
it, and they'll give you some
And they'll
information.
tell you
Kind of like,
everything about it.
yeah, kind of like Carfax. It'll tell you detailed history,
Yeah.
everything about the truck. Going back from when it started all the way up to now. Right? If it had any recalls, any issues that it had, um, and that's vehiclehistory.com. You can also go to historical sale history,
hmm
anything. You can really find out prior
More about it. hmm
to and remember, you're not physically there. You're
Right.
online and you're looking at this, and you can prep yourself up for it and still see a lot of information, any complaints, anything that's going on. So that's vehiclehistory.com. And you
hmm
can also match and see the truck. You're saying that the price and the date was 43,000. That's when it had 595,000 miles. So at
hmm
almost close, it's 350,000 miles more. It should be less than this. So you kind of
There
get a
you go.
gauge on what you can get it
Where you
for.
want to put yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
that way you don't overbid, so you can see. So it tells you and you can match up.
Definitely have a limit. Always have a limit.
And then right here, usually in the notes, what I look for, you'll have some trucks, regardless if it's box trucks or semi trucks. They'll tell you if it's managed by a fleet, previously owned, managed by a fleet. Sometimes,
And and that's what
companies,
you want.
yeah, that's what you want, because a lot of times companies have fleets that they gotta change around. It's time
Change
for them
it.
to
They
get rid
gotta
of
service
those,
them.
and they
Yeah.
gotta service them. So they go and buy brand new semi trucks,
Trucks. Yeah.
after like a couple years, but you can still take advantage of it because they've been servicing those anyway, like you just said,
Fair.
and now you're
Yeah.
getting the benefit um, of the truck.
Of a service truck. Even though the mileage doesn't really matter because you're on the road all the time with it. So don't let that scare you. Um, Basically, like I said, look at the truck and see. You can tell that this truck has been taken care of. This is something that ideal. Like I'm glad you told me about this to look at because you can see exactly what has been done and what hasn't been done on these trucks or so.
Hmm.
And it looks feasible to buy. I mean, that's what you'd be looking for right there. That type of ideal. But you go up underneath it and look at the brake lines and stuff too, and it says that it's been replaced.
Sometimes they'll tell you on this website that you can get stuff as is. They'll tell you
hmm
if there's no emissions. They give you everything is full, in detail to let
Right.
you know because they don't want to be responsible. And here's the thing about Ritchie Brothers: if you decide that you do not want the vehicle because it doesn't have everything that was stated when you made the auction and you were away and you come to visit and see it, they won't have any problems
hmm
with giving your money back or giving you the credit back if you got the credit to go ahead and purchase
Okay.
equipment. No
Well, that's
problems
good.
at all.
That's good.
And you can
That's a
see the
good thing to know.
details about the pictures as far as the engine. Granted, it hasn't started yet, like you stated, but you can see the wear and tear prior.
Yes, sir. There you go. The green lines up underneath. Brand new lines. Yep. That's what you're looking for, cuz. One other thing I forgot to tell you about too. Your fifth wheel. Go back on that next that picture before then. Go back. Right there. The fifth wheel up on the top right there.
Hmm.
That little metal piece. Make sure that's not loose. too. You can push on that or pull on that, but you have some gloves on because it has oil and stuff on it and grease.
Okay.
And that has to be greased when you're connecting with your trailers.
So the top needs to be greased for everybody
Yes,
who's
everybody who
new to
drives.
driving.
Yeah,
The top needs to be greased. So when you say
it's
loose, if you push on it, it's supposed to be completely
supposed to be
stiff.
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 Okay.
Yes. Yeah. If it's flappable and moving, you don't want to bother with it. That's
Basically,
problems.
where the trailer slides up on.
Slides onto it.
So as far as tires, I know that usually tires
Yeah.
cost about 3,500 to replace. They also show you tires in here.
If they eat out from the inside in coming out, yeah, you got bad problems with the suspension. But if they're like that, where you see grooves all the way through,
Hmm.
and the treads are, I don't know if you got a tread monitor, but most of us used to keep one, and you can tell if your treads is up to 30, 133rd of a tread,
Hmm.
your tires are good. But when they start getting slick, say like that back one back there on the back,
Hmm.
you just watch that when you keep the proper amount of air pressure into it.
So how often, and this is for, of course, if you are a truck driver right now that actually has been on the road for a while, you know this question.
hmm
But for the new truck drivers that's coming up, how often should you be checking your tire pressure? How many miles?
I'll tell you like this: every stop, I used to check because when those tires get hot, they over pressure themselves, and that's how you have blowouts. They used to call them may pops. They may pop on you, or they may not.
Mm.
So you check them constantly because they get hot when you got all of that weight on the back of them. So your tires are most important. That's where you keep your tire gauges and your bats, the beat on them,
Hmm.
to see if they're flat or they overinflated.
Hmm.
All your tires should sound the same when you beat on them.
So you're dealing. You're also you have a trailer, so you're talking about every single tire, not just the
Tire,
front.
yeah,
Every single
not just
tire.
the front. Every single tire.
You check the pressure before you leave.
And you
Um.
check the pressure when you get to a stop. Like if you go to fuel up,
Mhm.
that gives you time to get out the truck and exercise and stand up and stretch your legs and stuff
Mhm.
while you're doing work. Exercise with it.
Mhm.
It's also a benefit to you. It helps you.
If you happen to have a truck that has low tire pressure or possibly an issue that's coming up.
But I
Mhm.
see now that you can use your connection lines,
Mhm.
your airline. Your airlines sometimes the way that they have them now that you from your truck going into your trailer,
Mhm.
they have them with airlines that you can portable airlines you can buy and connect to that to blow up your tires. But if not, you can if you get to a truck stop, it's always somebody there with air. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, that's correct. And this is another thing too. If you're on Ritchie Brothers and you're looking at the auction and it might be Las Vegas, you have to pay attention to where the equipment is at. So you might be on the Las Vegas auction, but it might be located in a part of California. For example, you can be on a Denver auction, Denver, Colorado, but the equipment is located in Salt Lake City, Utah. So you gotta look at that. They're bidding for it, and you're on the website, and they control and they make sure that it's exactly what it's stated it is. But you have to make sure that you see and know the location.
To learn how to turn your loads into wealth, visit truckingandinvesting.com and become a member today.